We will call the Juvenile Detention Center Board meeting of Monday, January 13, 2025 to order. Sandra, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Rick Hall.
Here.
Superintendent William Coe.
Here.
Dr. Anita Herring.
Here.
Dr. Michael McDonald.
Here.
Mrs. Claire Maxwell.
Here.
Judge Steve Daniel.
Here.
Mayor Joe Carr.
Here. Thank you, Sandra. Vice Chair Daniels, if you had an opportunity to review the minutes of the previous meeting.
I have read them, but since I was not here, it's the only meeting I've missed. I can't really confirm, so I would suggest somebody else.
That is a true statement, and I did not make the necessary provisions for that. Has any other member of the board had a chance to review the minutes?
I have.
Excellent. So Dr. Herring, have you had an and have you found the minutes to be in order?
They are.
Okay, and I would assume there's a motion to approve the minutes?
A motion to approve. I will second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Dr. Herring. Thank you very much.
Register me as abstained since I wasn't here.
That's true. That's true. Thank you, Judge Daniel. We have anybody for public comments, correct? Ms. Duke, you recognized on item 4, which is open positions.
As of the last Friday, we have 2 full-time detention officer positions. It is incorrectly documented as female, but I believe that should be male. And then one part-time educational assistant, which can be male or female. And currently, although we have some applications in, nobody is officially on FMLA leaves at this time.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Duke on open positions? Seeing none, with no objection, we will accept. Item 5, data report, please.
Okay.
That's OIT. They can close it if they want to.
Before you have information regarding the youth that are currently detained today. As of this morning, you will note that there are 2 from Gibson County, 3 from Madison County, 8 from Rutherford, 1 for Sumner, for a total of 14.
Questions for Ms. Duke on the data report? Seeing none, if there is no objection, we will accept. Item 6, Education Services Report. Ms. Duke?
In front of you have our education information from December of last year. And beyond the extended Thanksgiving, Christmas break, I guess, there isn't really anything that stands out to me. We still had some young people that were in special education, small groups that the Board of Education, Mr. Eric Davis, was meeting with. Beyond that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Any questions regarding the Education Services Report? Ms. Maxwell, do you have a question?
No. I'm glad to see the sped guys get down there.
Oh yeah, he comes.
Because
He comes regularly and he does a good job.
I've kind of informally told Dr. Sullivan that there's a good chunk of the kids that come that are on IEPs, and he already knew that. So it's nice that we can take care of that.
Is the detention center affected by inclement weather?
No, the majority of our employees are considered essential or 24-hour employees. I recently went back to COVID and used the term that some of my employees weren't familiar with. I had said the word non-essential and they got real confused about that. Only my administrative folks in the front lobby area and our educational folks are considered non-essential, although we consider all of them essential, but they are not required to respond like the line staff would be. We are, however, in discussions about making a minor change to that come July, which we'll be discussing as kind of sprinkling in some SOP updates as we go, beginning this month. And so that's something that we might tackle to begin in July. But as of right now, receptionist, admin assistant, and our education department is not required to attend if there's inclement weather.
Prior to COVID, the term essential was typically, well, almost exclusively used to define those employees who had, because of the nature of their job, who had to report regardless of circumstances. The definition was broadened, and I won't get into the reason why, but we want to probably go back, the county wants to go back to that original definition because it is confusing. And so what the county has typically used is the term all employees are extremely important, but some are essential as to the nature of their tasks that require them to report, like law enforcement, like fire, like EMS, those kinds of things. And so we're trying to move away from that COVID definition that was expanded for obvious reasons that we don't need to get into here.
I won't be using that term anymore.
You know,
I
and so,
usually just say security staff, administrative
Yeah.
staff.
Right.
so what we'll do is the county will come up with some language and nomenclature that clearly explains that. But to be clear, all employees are important, extremely important, but because of the role of some, let me give you an example. The role of the mayor when something's going on is not essential. It just is not. I mean, but the role of law enforcement and fire and EMS is quite essential. And there's if I can use myself as an example, so.
Would assume that your position would be.
I'm sorry?
I would have assumed that your position would have been.
Well, I'm
essential.
not saying it's not, but what I'm saying is it doesn't require me to report to the office. Is to see what I'm saying?
Well, okay.
So if a decision needs to be made, I can make that decision via phone or a Zoom or something like that. There are some positions that require all hands on deck, and I think that's the
Right.
nature of the definition in essential, and we need to flesh that out. So, and quite honestly, I appreciate your input on that, and as well as anybody else's, because we don't want to politicize that term
Right.
any more than we have to.
It wasn't something that I intended to do,
It happened. No, it happened. We got you. With regard to the Education Services Report, are there any questions for Ms. Duke? Seeing none, and if there is no objection, we'll accept. We'll go to item 7, the DCS Approval Letter, Ms. Duke.
So generally, our approval letter, well, they have dated it for November. November is when we generally get these letters, and they did come through and begin their audit in November. There was some competing statutes and federal versus state folks were getting in on whether or not certain information that is maintained at the HR department for the county could be released, and if so, would this particular agency be an appropriate one to release it to? And that delayed it just a little bit. So all is well. They backdated it to November. They got the information that they needed. And so this is just to let y'all know that although the state doesn't license juvenile detention facilities, they have approved us to continue operations.
Keyword in there, compliant.
Yes.
Any questions for Ms. Duke on the DCS Approval Letter? Seeing none, if there is no objection, we'll accept. Item 8, we have SOP language. We have 5 policies in particular that we're going to address.
Yes.
I guess we're going to do those one at a time.
I
And
think
then-
it would be easy today.
And then would you like to let me ask you this before we finish off. Are they interrelated, the 5 policies?
Not particularly.
Okay, so
And
we
these
take
are-
them separately and then vote on them separately. Would that be the best way to do it? I guess I'm looking for a process.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's just do that then. Unless there's no objection from the from the board. We'll just take them one at a time, review them, and then, the board will need to vote on those acceptance of those policy changes. Is that not correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, you're recognized.
Okay, so these are just some very simple cleaning up some of the language that is used in the current SOP. I have highlighted anything that either was the section that the update or language change occurred in, or the date change. So just the first little page that you have is the table of contents. The only thing on that particular page, and I didn't even count it as part of the 5 policies, is just that the date at the top has changed from 2024 to 2025. The first policy that is going to be different in 2025 than it was in 2024 is on page 5. We were required during our last PREA audit, he asked if, although
He who?
he, the PREA auditor,
Okay.
asked if we would insert this highlighted section in the middle of the page where it says the Tennessee Department of Children's Services minimum standards for juvenile detention centers 0250, 0408, and the highlighted is federal PREA zero tolerance standards. That's the part that he asked us to include, are incorporated by, et cetera, et cetera. We have in another section where it mentions that we follow and abide by all PREA standards, but he asked that just in our mission statement that we could add that wording, and so I have done so. And on that same page, the organizational flow chart, the only change is to the Title I Life Skills Coordinator. In 2024, we had a employee change, and we took an opportunity to take a look at who reported to whom, and we just had everybody go ahead and report to our life skills coordinator, and that was just some minor movement in that organizational flow chart.
Okay, so there were like 2 or 3 things in that motion, Ms. Duke. Can you, for Ms. McMahon, structure that change in the form of a motion that the board can easily digest?
To add language in Chapter 1, Section 1, federal PREA zero tolerance standards, in the middle of the second paragraph, as presented to board.
Correct. As referenced on page 5 of 179. And does that include the organizational flow chart? Is there a change in this organizational flow chart that's being highlighted in yellow?
Yes,
Okay, so we want to include that as well, correct?
yes,
Okay. Ms. McMahon, did you get that?
yes.
Perfect.
Would it be easier to simply make a motion that the drafted page 5-179
It would be.
as highlighted would,
It would be much easier, Judge Daniel.
okay.
So the motion is to accept the highlighted part of page 5, 179 of the revised SOP, correct?
As presented.
As presented. Thank you. Is there any objection to that wording? We will use, if that's okay with everybody, and if we're applicable, we'll use that same template for wording to cut down on Ms. Mack's hands.
Okay.
All right, any questions? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. McMahon, we're going to do a roll call vote on changes to the SOP, so call the roll, please.
Mr. Rick Hall,
Aye.
Superintendent William Coe,
Yes.
Dr. Anita Herron,
Yes.
Dr. Michael McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Claire Maxwell,
Yes.
Judge Steve Daniel,
Yes.
Mayor Joe Carr.
Yes. Thank you. Number 2.
Okay, so
So just explain what the change is, and then we'll allow, since Judge Daniel just did a splendid job summarizing the previous motion, if he doesn't mind and he has no objection, we'll let him make the motion again. Thank you.
Okay, so in Chapter 3, that's where we're discussing employee uniforms. It's Chapter 3, Section 5. On page 44 of that section, there have been two sections added, and they are highlighted. The first section that has been added reads, "To prevent department-issued items from being lost or stolen, you should leave your duty belt, ID card, JDC computer token, badge, OC spray, handcuffs, etc. in your locked desk, office, or locker after you clock out." In that addition, we have added, because we have had an employee that had left their Rutherford County issued items in their car, and their car was broken into, and we don't want to continue to have those type problems. So if they keep it at work, it shouldn't be a problem.
I mean, as I read that, that's what I thought it was. It happens everywhere, unfortunately.
And,
Go ahead.
and then additionally, at the bottom of page 44, the new wording is, "In the event a department-issued uniform item is damaged in some way, bring that item to work to get an exchange. RCJDC destroys unusable items that cannot be reused." Similar concept, if we have someone who wasn't employed very long and has failed to turn something in, we don't want our uniforms being used inappropriately. In the past, we have had employees that, one employee that tried to get some special services with the local movie theater, and wore their uniform to the theater. And we reuse the items, and if it's something that is damaged, we just cut up the logo and throw it away and give them something new.
That's nothing like Barney Fife going to the dance with Thelma Lou in his uniform.
Yes, exactly like that.
I would assume you also want the motion to include page 43 with the date change.
Yes, please.
Or it'd be my motion that the exhibited page 43 and 44 with the yellow highlighted information be approved as a change to our SOP.
Thank you, Judge Daniel. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, there's no objection. Senator, call the roll.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Superintendent William Coates,
Yes.
Dr. Anita Herron,
Yes.
Dr. Michael McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Claire Maxwell,
Yes.
Judge Steve Daniel,
Yes.
Mayor Joe Carr.
Yes. Thank you. You recognize Ms. Duke on item 3 of the 5 policies updated change.
So the next item is Chapter 3, Section 18, which is communicable disease and biohazards. On page 63, the effective date has been updated to January 2025. And on the second page, also, the date is been changed, effective January 2025. The policy at issue is updating the COVID-19 section of the SOP to be in line with CDC guidelines, which has changed. And the new wording is effective March 1st, 2024. The CDC has updated the isolation guidelines for COVID-19. It is now the same guidelines as anyone with the flu, RSV, etc., and that is returning to normal activities when, for at least 24 hours, symptoms are improving overall, and if a fever was present, it has been gone without use of a fever-reducing medication.
Motion that the exhibited document page 63 and 64 with the highlighted yellow entries be approved as a amendment to the SOP.
That is a proper motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, if there is no objection, Senator, call the roll.
Mr. Rick Hall.
Aye.
Superintendent William Coe.
Yes.
Dr. Anita Harris. Dr. Michael McDonald.
Yes.
Mrs. Claire Maxwell.
Yes.
Judge Steve Daniel.
Yes.
Mayor Joe Carr.
Yes. Ms. Duke, you're recognized on item 4 of the 5 updated policies.
So we're now in Chapter 6, Section 4, which is sick call. We have updated the effective date to January 2025 and has added to when the youth should be placed on sick call. This was actually already a standard practice, but we realized that it was not actually denoted in the SOP, so that was just cleaning up internally, and that section would be the addition of detainees returning from the emergency room.
It'd be my motion that the exhibited page 103 of 179 with its yellow identified amendments be approved as an amendment to our SOP.
That is a proper motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, and if there's no objection, Senator, call the roll.
Mr. Rick Hall.
Yes.
Superintendent William Coe.
Yes.
Dr. Anita Harris.
Yes.
Dr. Michael McDonald.
Yes.
Mrs. Claire Maxwell.
Yes.
Judge Steve Daniel.
Yes.
Mayor Joe Carr.
Yes. Thank you. And finally, item 5 of the 5 policies. Ms. Duke?
So we're now in Chapter 7, Section 7, which is basic education services. You will see on numeral 3 that the minimum of 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday. Originally, minimum standards had that at 2, and we are aligning SOP to meet minimum standards, although we have been doing the 4 hours as a standard practice for a while now. We're just getting the SOP updated. Then on numeral 5, this is new. We've just added, if misuse of the internet is discovered, you must save the evidence and document the situation via an incident report. Sometimes if there's an issue, the first thing that an educational assistant might want to do is remove the link or the proof where a young person was able to visit a site that they should not have been able to. But what we really need to do is document and save it so that we have it in the event that we need to discuss with OIT or do something further regarding an investigation, an internal investigation.
It'd be my motion that the drafted and submitted page 121 of 179 yellow identified items be accepted as an amendment to our SOP.
That is a proper motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? I have a question.
Yes.
Is the word misuse in the added SOP for 7-7 basic education is defined somewhere else? What is defined as misuse? And if so, where is it defined?
It is not defined. The young folks are using the internet as part of education services to access specific sites that allow them to work on their schoolwork that is connected to that child. So everybody's doing their own work. We have had a couple of young folks, even though OIT has firewalled us and done all the things, apparently, there's always, when there's a will, there's a way. And we have had some that have not stayed on task and have not done their work as they should, and they misuse that internet connection to go off task. But that word can be changed if necessary.
Well, I think what the mayor's trying to say is this should reflect back to your rules and regulations at some point, or directives that you give the young people when they're allowed in that class.
Yeah, and to provide clarity to that, one of my question isn't so much that defining misuse on the part of the juveniles that are incarcerated or will take care of, but is to make sure there's consistency within the staff as to what constitutes misuse. You and I, Ms. Duke, genuinely have an honest disagreement about what constitutes an inappropriate access to a website. And so what I want to know is there's continuity within the staff as to what constitutes misuse, so that there's consistency with those children, those young adults who we're charged with. You see what I'm saying? And I'm wondering, would that be if there isn't, would that be of benefit?
Sure, we can absolutely do that.
Well, hold on a second. Don't just, I don't want you just to, my idea may not be a good idea. I want to flush this out a little bit. I know you can do it. What I'm trying to, if you and Leon disagree about what misuse is, and then you're both coming at this Bill over here, who's a 17-year-old doing his homework, and you both have a different definition of misuse, and Bill's got two different definitions. I'm just saying, would it not be beneficial to have consistency within the staff as to what that definition is? Does that make sense?
They should only be accessing the specific educational sites, and the EAs are there observing and making sure that that is happening. You've got one EA and multiple young people. So,
So
I will,
the administrator of what constitutes misuse would be the EA. Would that be correct?
well, I think it would we would probably need to get with Garland Henley, who is, who all of those folks are going to be reporting to, and have him work up something so that there is clarity and that there is consistency, just so that there's no way we can be on different pages.
So what I would suggest to the board is that we go ahead and adopt this as written, but if it's okay with the board, if you could have that discussion with your staff to see that everybody's on that page as to, because it's so easy to assume everybody understands what misuse is, and then that of course is a gratuitous assumption. Vice Chair Daniel, you're recognized.
I think you identified what you thought the appropriate use would be as just educational sites. Is that right, Ms. Duke?
There are specific ones that they have access to, and generally everything else should not be an option.
Okay, so would you approach it by saying
Yeah.
that any other use than X, Y, Z, whatever it is considered misuse, and then use your
Or
language?
anything-
That would be perfect.
Anything outside of assigned task.
Yeah.
Yeah, deviating from that immediately.
I would like for that to be, and again, that may be too much,
No, it's not.
but I just know when you leave terms and definitions, or terms to be openly defined by whoever's reading it, you get multiple definitions, and that's problematic.
And we've seen, people, I mean, that's been going on ever since there's been an internet in facilities. People have been able to break that wall. We've seen people get on social media, and maybe the instructor may not see that as, inappropriate, but the staff would. So we would try to define that as anything outside of assigned task.
Ms. Maxwell, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, I like that definition and clearly defining it, because it's going to say, it's been out there. With the books, patently offensive. Try to define patently offensive.
Yeah.
Everyone in this room has their own idea of what's patently offensive. So any deviation, it would be better just to keep it to any deviation off of an educational website. That's automatically, misuse.
And you may have identified educational sites that are only the ones that are authorized, and that even helps you do even more.
Yes.
And how are they monitored?
the youth that are using, we have them in small groups, different, the 18-year-olds are with 18-year-olds, et cetera. And so the educational assistants are with each group. So if there's 4 people in my group, I'm responsible for these 4. There could be 2 in his group, 1, 5, whatever the case may be. And so they're there to help answer questions, keep them on task, and then obviously make sure that they don't leave the websites that they're supposed to be.
And you're right, even with firewalls.
Yes,
These
and
kids
they know how
are
to do it.
so smart.
Yeah, I know in like some of the classrooms, the teachers have their, whatever site they're on, up on the screen, so she gets.
Well, they're all working on their own
Individual, yeah.
individual work, and
Okay.
so they are all going to be doing something different. I could be a 17-year-old working on, a 5th grade level, and you could be,
But is the educational site the same?
the sites it's going to depend on the kids, but generally, yes. But there couldn't be one,
So if there was a monitor up in front of the classroom, so the teacher could look up and say, well, they're all on Heron Academy. So, and then all of a sudden I see YouTube, then I realize, because the education assistant could be working with them and doesn't realize that the superintendent
I'll
is
see,
on
I'll
another
check and see what options.
Because I know
we
they
have
do
as-
that in the middle school.
Right.
They just put it all up there and you get a chance to like see.
What site would I be on other
I
than
said
Heron
YouTube.
Academy?
I was good. I'm sitting here going, I didn't know there was a Heron Academy, but I really like this idea. This is good stuff.
YouTube. So, no,
I'll
I
look-
just
we'll
know
look
that that's
into
what
that.
they do in, at Siegel Middle, and then the teacher gets to see when they deviate off the site.
And I think OIT could
Yeah.
pretty easily do that.
And you'll get a chance to see, and that way,
Good
even
idea.
if the education assistant is helping with another
Right.
student, she can't watch 3 other students, and they
Right.
can sneak real quick and do whatever they do.
When I was at Riverdale, I
Fast.
used to have to walk around
Right, you have
and make
to.
sure. And next thing you know, somebody'd be on some cartoon website,
Right.
and I'd be like,
Facebook.
how did you
Sending
do this?
something.
But
That's a good idea.
So we have a proper motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Senator, call the roll, please.
Mr. Rick Hall,
Yes.
Superintendent William Cope,
Yes.
Dr. Anita Herron,
Yes.
Dr. Michael McDonald,
Yes.
Ms. Claire Maxwell,
yes,
Judge Steve Daniel,
Yes.
Mayor Joe Carr.
Yes. Ms. Duke, so it's the understanding of the board then that you'll bring back a kind of a definition of misuse for the, okay, great. Excellent. That concludes item 8. We are now to other business. Does the board have other business? Ms. Duke? Board? Seeing none, if there's no objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you.